Hello folks, and welcome to part 2 of making this triple laminate longbow. If you missed part 1, I'll put that on the screen and in the links below. We're up to the point now where we're tillering. So we've already got the tillering grooves in, which we did in the last video, and we've got the string loosely placed onto the bow, and we've got the bow up on the tiller. I'm not expecting to see an awful lot at the moment because, well, as I say, we've only just put it up there, but I will give it a few tentative draws on the tiller and see what shape we're getting from the bow. Whether that's coming across on the video or not. But you can probably see we've actually got a bit of bend in the top limb around here. Don't know whether you can see that. And the bottom limb, well, it's not doing a lot at all. So I suspect what I need to do first is take some wood off that bottom limb. That top limb, I'll probably leave it alone for now. I might take a little bit out of here just to even that up, try and relieve some of that bend that we're getting in the top there. So I'm going to get that onto the workbench, even that up, and then we'll come back and see how that looks. By using the rasp, I've taken some throughout that bottom limb, and at the top limb I've taken some out around here, and I've done a little general work to get rid of some of the rough tools from the roughing out that I did. Let's have a look now, see how it looks. Okay, you can probably see we're still looking at a larger movement, a larger bend in that top limb. It's not as acute to one point as it was. The first time we drew that up, we were looking at more this sort of point here. Now it's a bit more general where I've taken some out. The bottom limb still isn't doing too much, so I think what we'll do is we'll take this down and take a bit more out through that bottom limb. I won't touch the top at all, and we'll see if we can even that up a bit and then draw it a bit more. We're back up onto the tiller, so this is the third go at tillering. I have taken some more out of that bottom limb. That's basically all I concentrated on. Let's see if that's made any difference when I pull it now. Okay, we're starting to get some movement in that bottom limb now. Okay, I've just realised the camera might be over slightly to one side. I'm going to move it over, that might even things up a bit how it looks on the screen. Okay, I've moved the camera a bit. Not sure it's making any difference, but I didn't want things to look too incorrect when I look back at this on the footage. Yeah, I think that looks a bit more even now. Okay, let's give that a few more pulls. Okay, yeah, we are getting a bit more movement in that limb now. Okay, so we're probably getting more movement in this section of this limb. So I probably want to take a bit out through, probably through here. Perhaps even that up. And the top limb. It's certainly looking stiff at the very tip. And there's a bit of a stiff section around here. So I'll have a look at those. Right, we've got it back up on the tiller again. Let's see what we got now. Okay, we've still got more bend in that top limb. Ultimately we do want a bit more bend in that top limb because of the way these types of bows are and the way they're structured and the length of that top limb. But that's too much at the moment. Another good indicator is actually the travel of the hook here. You're seeing it's moving over to one side as we draw it down. That bottom limb looks to be stiff across here. You notice the tip to mid limb isn't doing much. Anyway, we'll take a bit more out of that and see what happens. I've taken some off the bottom. Let's see if that's made any difference now. Okay, that's looking a bit better. I think what we'll do is brace the bow up a little bit and get it back on the tiller. As you can see, I've braced it up a bit. It's probably an inch, inch and a half off full bracing height. Anyway, we're going to draw that up and see how it looks now. Okay, that's not looking too bad. I think what I'll do is get it up to full bracing height and then take some measurements and go from there. We're at full bracing height now. I've actually done some measurements going out from the centre of the handle to approximately sort of 8 inches along the limb and then measuring down to the string. Done that both sides. We want about a 2/8 inch difference between the limbs ultimately, this because the top limb is longer, so we want that to be about 2/8 of an inch deeper than the bottom limb. The bottom limb actually is still a touch stiff going by the measurements, but now we're at full bracing height. We can hopefully see a bit easier where we've got stiff spots and what have you. Let's draw it up and have a look. In general, it's not looking too bad, but there are a few areas that we can work on here. The bottom limb, as I say, is the one that's actually a bit too stiff at the moment. The areas it seems to be stiff is actually sort of here in the handle section. If you compare it to the top here, there's not a lot happening sort of, from around there to there. It's a bit stiff. The tips are a bit stiff on both limbs, but I tend to leave those a bit stiff because when we put the nocks on here and here, we're obviously going to reduce the end of the bow to actually meet the nock. So we tend to lose some of that stiffness. So I tend to leave that. If you've seen any of the other videos I do on tillering, you'll notice that I've done that before. The top limb here, we've actually got a slight stiff section just around there. I don't know whether you can see that on the camera. So we're going to need to do something about that as well. Okay, let's work on those areas and see how it looks next. Well, let's see where we are now. We've taken some more wood out of those areas that I just mentioned. So it's not looking too bad now actually. It's a bit more of an even bend there going on. I'll do obviously some measurements and double check how that actually looks when I get the ruler on it. There's one or two areas I could fiddle around with, but obviously I'm going to need to get this bow to a certain weight. So what I'm going to do first is get the nocks on, which will mean, as I mentioned earlier on, taking down some of the thickness of these tips, which will make those bend a bit more, which will change the overall look and shape of the bow. So there's not much point me fiddling around too much more now until I've got those on. So join me in the next video where we'll get the nocks on, and we'll also then have a look at how the tiller is and see what shape, see whether it's changed compared to what it is now, and working towards finishing the tillering aspect of the bow. Okay, I hope that was useful. As I say, if you missed part 1, I'll put that in the links below, and please do subscribe and like and all those other things so you can join me on part 3 of this series of build along videos. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you again soon.